Hey, what's up guys? Welcome back to my channel. Hope you guys have been rocking it in your kitchen. It is great to be back. Today's menu is all about breakfast toast. As you guys can see, avocado tends to dominate the toast world, so I thought it would be fun to give a few different alternates to the beloved toast universe. So with that said, let's dive into the recipes. Alright, so the first toast recipe I'm going to show you is one of my favorite flavor combos when I want to get a little fancy with breakfast. It's basically a play on salmon and eggs with a myriad of other flavors going on. But first up, you want to soft to medium boil a few whole eggs. This will take about 8 to 11 minutes depending on how well you like your eggs cooked. If you want to stop the cooking process right away, just make sure you throw them into an ice bath. After the eggs are cooked the way you like, peel the shell off, add the boiled eggs to a bowl. Then you're going to give them a good smash and mix with a fork. After that, you're going to add in all your flavors that you basically want to have in there. But here I'm going to be adding in some chopped capers for a really beautiful touch of acidity, a little bit of small diced onion, and some hearty herbs that I have growing in my backyard. I would normally put some chervil and parsley in this, but I tend to work with what I have available for the most part. I'm going to finish off the egg spread with a little bit of olive oil, some Dijon mustard for a nice little touch of spice, and of course some good old salt and pepper to finish, and it should be ready to go. If you're going to serve this right away, don't worry about covering it or refrigerating it, but if you're going to use it later, make sure you stick it straight in the fridge. Alright, on to the next toast. So next up is the homemade ricotta and brandied blackberry compote toast combo. For this, we'll be adding the whole milk to a large sauce pot that's on low to medium heat, and you are simply going to heat up the milk to a light simmer. Just be careful not to boil it, otherwise you can scorch the milk and that can cause some bitterness to happen. Once the milk is up to temp though, squeeze in some fresh lemon juice to start the curdling process, and right away you'll begin to notice that the texture of the milk will change and the top portion will become slightly spongy to the touch. As soon as that happens, turn off the heat, let the mixture sit for a minute just to make sure that all the acid has produced maximum curtilage. Then it's time to strain out all that whey, which is the excess milk watery stuff. But what's left behind is a beautiful, fluffy ricotta cheese. Now there's two things to note for this when you're finishing up your ricotta, is that if you want a creamier ricotta, add some of the whey back into the cheese just to lighten it up a bit, and also don't forget to add a few pinches of salt to the cheese, otherwise it can be pretty bland. Alright, so now that the ricotta is all squared away, it is time for the blackberry compote. So put a small pot or pan on medium heat, add in about half of the blackberries, just make sure you reserve some raw ones, just set those aside, and you're going to add them to the hot pot. Then you're going to toss in the brown sugar and a splash of brandy. Just be careful of flare-ups, so just take the pan away if you're scared of that, big flaming shootout that sometimes happens with alcohol. And you are going to cook this for about 10 minutes or so until it becomes a dark, bubbling berry syrup. Now you can add all the blackberries if you want, just to have a little bit more of a kind of a sticky jam. But I like mine to be a little bit more chunky and have some of that really nice raw burst of, blackberry flavor. After the blackberries have cooked down into a chunky syrup and can easily coat the back of a spoon, simply just mix the reserved raw blackberries into the hot berry mixture, and then you are going to set everything in the fridge to cool down for at least 30 minutes before you serve this one. Last but not least is, of course, a variation of avocado toast that I've really been liking lately, and it starts out with this broken cashew herb spread. So start out by finely chopping up some garlic along with thinly sliced lemon zest, some chopped herbs. In this case, I have rosemary, oregano, and thyme. Next, you're going to add in some roasted and chopped cashews to the mix. a generous splash of olive oil, and finally some salt and cracked black pepper to finish, of course. Once the pesto is ready to go, roughly scoop out the avocado from the skin and add it to a bowl. It doesn't have to be perfect because you're just going to mash it up anyways. But you're going to add it to the bowl with some roughly cut zucchini. Again, it doesn't have to be perfect how you cut it up. Just make sure it's bite-sized pieces. Here I'm just going to slice it in half and cut it on a bias and then add it to the bowl as well. After that, I'm going to season everything with a spoonful of the pesto, some fresh lemon juice, and some red chili flakes for a light spiciness. Give this all a good mix, then it's time to assemble all the toasts. All right, so now that everything's basically ready to go, it's time just to assemble everything and put it on toast. The most common bread for breakfast toast tends to be a large rustic country sourdough loaf, from what I've seen at least. So I've got a few thick cut slices of that very same kind of bread here, and it's been lightly toasted. The assembling process is pretty straightforward. You can kind of do it however you'd like. But for the avocado toast, I put the pesto down first and then topped it with that zucchini avocado mixture. It's just really delicious, nice little spicy flair to it. Next up is the eggs and salmon type of toast. I'm going to put the egg spread down first, and then I'm going to top it with some really delicious store-bought lightly cured Atlantic salmon. And I'm actually going to borrow some of that broken pesto just to top it, give it a nice little sheen and some of that herbaceous flair that the pesto has. And I have a few fennel tops that I'm going to garnish it with as well. Last but not least is the ricotta and the the boozy blackberry compote. I'm going to put down a generous amount of the ricotta, spread it around, and make a nice little bowl just to hold all those beautiful blackberries in it. And I'm going to top the ricotta with a good amount of that boozy blackberry compote. And that's it, guys. Breakfast toasts for the win.